Hi. Okay, so for the first prompt from session 4, I'm doing the question to think about the gender messages you received growing up. And for me, it was a weird experience because I grew up in small town in Georgia, where there were very, very clear gender messages. Just from observing others, specifically adults, as a child, um, there were very set gender roles, and gender was very binary, I would say. Women were supposed to be very feminine and be mothers and be homewives, while men were supposed to be masculine and have the job. Uh, Very much set gender roles. And it's interesting to reflect back on my childhood because even though those messages were very prominent, my parents were not sending those messages over to me. And I think they were purposely trying not to. They never really held me to a standard to be feminine or to dress a certain way, um, or keep up with my appearance. And so, yeah, they also um, really didn't further the message that women need to behave differently than men. I can think of, like, this is probably a small example, or sound small, but I have to think back onto it. My mom, she never scolded me for not crossing my legs when I was sitting. And like, I know there's some of my friends my age when I was a child, like they would, like, their parents would be like telling them, no, like, you have to, close your legs. And I think my mom did this very intentionally because she knew just how dividing and it was to, scold the girls but not the boys for sitting a certain way. And yeah, so because of my parents, I think I was able to be a kid and a teenager without having a weird pressure to act my gender. And I'm very appreciative of it now because I think it limited the internalized beliefs I have about gender, and I feel more free to just act the way I can or act the way I feel without having a set standard to live by. And so, yeah. And so then from session 5, the prompt, the what new thing did you learn from doing the sex history role play in class? And so for me, I really enjoyed this exercise because it put me in a situation where I actually had to ask sexual history questions, and it wasn't just a sort of hypothetical, like, what would I do in this situation? Excuse me. Um, and I think the major thing that I learned from this exercise, or role play, is that when having sexual history or current sexual behavior conversations with clients, the clients are the masters of their own lives. And, like, as clinicians or therapists, we need to follow the client's narratives. Um, and so I think encompasses more than just like talking about sexual histories or like feelings towards sex or certain sexual experiences. Um, but I think as I was like doing this exercise, I had some questions in mind that I wanted to ask, but the client answered differently than what I had thought they would, which led us down a different path of questioning and just conversations in general. It it really emphasized to me that as therapists, we are here for the client and not for what we think the client needs. And so, yeah, I think that this has been a reminder for me, um, in all kind of conversations with clients, but especially conversations about sex or sexual history, because it sex is still such a stigma and for a lot of people and in a lot of like communities. Yeah. And so then the prompt from session 6, I chose in what ways have you grown or changed over time in terms of your own personal agency and respect for self and others around sexual encounters. And okay, so this class session I think was a little harder for me than I thought. Um, and I didn't think it would be. So that was like an interesting experience and reflection. There were just moments where I felt more emotions in my body and just kind of tension was building up. And so I turned the camera off for a little bit and just did some deep breathing exercises, and actually did a little bit of the tapping exercise that we did in the beginning of class and in between exercises. And so I also now have the app, so thank you. But this session also, the sessions before this, really it's made me more mindful about different people's feelings and beliefs and perceptions about sex. I went into this course being fully comfortable talking about sex with practically anybody, even strangers, but I've learned just because I may feel comfortable talking about sex does not mean that other people have the same feelings. And also there are times that I've realized now that I don't feel comfortable or safe talking about sex. I think saying I was always comfortable with it was a bit of a coping mechanism for me, but yeah, I think this course and session 6 really made me reflect a lot on that. And I feel like I've grown to respect that sex is a unique experience for every person. And the emotions evoked or not evoked when having sexual conversations are all valid in their own ways. And I think specifically as therapists to really remember that. With clients, like with their intake or down the line, whatever it may be. So, yeah, thank you.